Hi, so I wanted to make a video, or a few videos, about the EU and how it works because the referendum is a big thing. You know, my opinion is my opinion. I'm going to have some level of bias. I would strongly advocate you go and look up other people who have different opinions from different sources who think different things. And so this particular video is about what the EU is for. Now I'm going to make some other videos on some other things, but this video is about what the EU is for, what its function is. The EU started as the European Coal and Steel Community, a small organisation formed after World War II, and it was basically just to control coal and steel, and it was in Belgium, France, West Germany, Italy, Netherlands and Luxembourg. And the idea of that is basically that if coal and steel are jointly controlled between those countries, it's really hard for them to go to war. But then obviously it morphed and changed, so it became the European Economic Community, or the EEC, and then ultimately the EU, and it expanded from those original countries into the 28 members that we know today. So it's primarily to make trade easier. So how does it do that? Well, it does that in three ways. One, tariffs. Tariffs are taxes on imports. If you bring in 500 sofas into the country, you pay a tax on those sofas. Those are lifted between EU member states, and that's pretty standard in trade deals, and that's what people usually talk about when they talk about reducing costs. So the second one, which is talked about to be fair, is that capital goods and people are allowed to move freely between the states. So what that means is if you sell a dishwasher in the UK, you are completely allowed to sell it in Belgium as well, if you want to. If you work in the UK, you can choose to work in Belgium, or Italy, or Greece, or wherever. The idea being that if people and money and goods can flow between all of the different countries, that's one big competitive market. And so if you have rubbish wages and rubbish conditions, you can move away from that place to somewhere with better wages and better conditions. And so that's good for people. If you know, there's a way of buying something cheaper, that you can buy it for less money. That's good for you as a consumer. Okay, third one. Countries within the Union have increasingly similar regulations for business. And this is a really important one that people don't talk about, and that's kind of what I want to focus on. When we say similar regulations for business, we mean regulations in like what counts as a Class A cucumber versus a Class B cucumber. What are the regulations on dishwashers? And when people talk about sort of EU law being imposed upon us, that's mostly, well, entirely what they're talking about, really. Frankly, deciding what our regulations are on hoovers, for example, vacuum cleaners, but what our regulations are on vacuum cleaners collectively as the European Union does not, in my opinion, really damage the UK's sovereignty or diminish us as a country. I don't feel that the UK is less of a country because we have the same standards of what makes a Class A carrot versus a Class B carrot as Belgium. So the reason we have them the same is so that if you're a company and you make something in the European Union, you can then sell it anywhere in the European Union and the regulations will be exactly the same. What it used to be is there would be 28 different sets of regulations and you'd have to make it slightly differently and follow slightly different rules. That saves money for everyone. Money that wasn't doing anything before. It wasn't improving the product, it wasn't making our lives better in any way, it wasn't adding any additional value, it was money that was just lost. It just made the product more expensive and that reduces trade. And that's why trade deals are done. That doesn't mean trade deals benefit everyone all of the time. What trade deals do is they increase the overall size of the economy. And it is down to individual governments, including the UK government, to ensure that everyone benefits and no one is hurt by that. That is the job of a national government. So when people talk about staying in the common market but not following the regulations, that doesn't make any sense. If you stay in the common market, you have to follow the regulations, and not because those pesky Europeans are making us. You have to follow the regulations because that's what the common market is. That's how we save money. The idea is that it's good for business because they can sell everywhere. but it's also good for consumers because we can buy from everywhere. And it's also, and this is crucial, good for workers and employees, because if you get a bad deal somewhere, you can always move somewhere else. That's why we're in the EU, that's what it's for. I'm going to talk next time about how the EU actually functions, because people often talk about the democratic deficit and worries that it's undemocratic. So I want to just take you through exactly how the EU functions, and then you can kind of make up your own mind on that. Okay, bye.